Welcome to Audit Archive, where we run you through some of the most questionable and rather atrocious police encounters. Today, we're looking at a case where a police officer gave an old man a concussion, busted his lips, and broke 8 of his ribs, all because he was resting in his car after a long drive. On August 14, 2023, 62-year-old Kevin Hinton was driving back home after visiting his newborn grandchild. It was a long way back home, and he was 11 hours into the road trip when he realized that he was too tired to safely continue driving. He called up some family members in the nearby area to check whether he could drop by to get some rest, but nobody answered since it was rather late at night. So Mr. Hinton did what any logical, thoughtful, and responsible member of the public would do. He pulled over into a parking lot at the Terrace View Park in Spokane, Washington, to have some rest in his car so he could continue driving home later on. Following this, at almost midnight, Deputy Clay Hilton of the Spokane County Sheriff's Office approached Mr. Hinton's vehicle and shined a flashlight inside to try and get his attention. This entire ordeal was captured on Deputy Clay's body cam. Note that the audio begins a few seconds into the footage.
How you doing?
Good. You're being audio and video recorded. It's a crime to be in the park after hours. This is considered a park. So.
All right, I'll go find another place to watch a movie.
All right, you got your ID on you real quick?
No, I don't.
You're not shutting the door. You're not free to leave.
Yeah, I am.
You're not.
Why are you acting like that?
Because you're
I
kind
just
of
said
being
I'm
rude.
I'm being rude?
Yes.
And how is that?
How is that? I'm trying to explain to you you're in the park after hours and you're committing a crime.
That's a
You're
crime?
not. It is. Yes.
No, it's not.
You want to bet?
It's a civil offense.
It's not. Do you have your ID
Really?
with you?
No, I don't have my ID on me.
Buy one, I'll take another.
You're not getting my ID for sitting in a parking lot now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now, as you've just heard, Deputy Clay stated that it's a crime to be in the park after hours. Note that in June 2023, the Spokane City Council made it an arrestable offense to be in the Spokane parks between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. What's interesting is that Council President Breen Beggs and Council members Betsy Wilkerson and Zach Zapponi voted against the ordinance, raising concerns that the law could be used to criminalize people not causing harm and saying it wouldn't improve public safety. Little did they know that less than 2 months later, an innocent grandfather would be treated with life-threatening violence because of this. But this is where another concern arises. Was Mr. Hinton inside the park, or was he simply outside in the parking lot where the after-hour law wouldn't apply? If we look at the map, we might be able to say that Mr. Hinton was outside of the park boundaries, since the parking areas appear to be fenced out. This becomes evident when we look back at the footage. You can see the fence that basically divides the park from the parking lot. We even see the yellow sign which states the opening hours. So we can argue that Mr. Hinton technically did not commit a crime at all. And this is exactly what his lawyers later argued too. Regardless, let's not forget that Mr. Hinton had shown no signs of suspicious activity. He was simply watching a movie in his car while safely parked with the intention of getting some rest before continuing the road trip. Let's see how the encounter unfolds ahead.
So,
Whose car are you in?
pardon me?
You're not shutting the door on me.
I'm not shutting the door, I'm rolling the window down. Now you can shut my door.
I'm not shutting the door. I need your name. You are not free
I'm
to
not
leave.
giving you my name.
Okay. 551. I'll take those units code. Putting your shoes on for you. You're not going anywhere.
And why is that, sir?
Why? Because you're refusing to tell me who you are, and you're probably going to end up going to jail.
Oh, for not giving you my name.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, then you have at it.
Okay. Go ahead and stand up for me. Turn around, face the car. Turn around, face the car.
Don't put your hands on me, pal. Listen.
You are gonna get hurt.
I
Don't
am?
listen to what I'm telling you.
Are you audio video recording this?
I already told you that. Get on the
Hey,
Get on the ground. You're under arrest.
Dude.
Get on the ground. Dude, get on the ground. Jesus Christ. What part of that?
In just a matter of a minute, Deputy Clay went from demanding ID to literally telling Mr. Hinton to his face that he was going to get hurt, proving it just a second later by aggressively grabbing onto him and then trying to throw him to the ground. What's truly outrageous is the fact that Mr. Hinton was not resisting at all, let alone his 62 years of age. What we can observe is that Deputy Clay likely pulled up to Mr. Hinton's vehicle with the sole intention of arresting him. Otherwise, Deputy Clay would have kindly asked Mr. Hinton to leave the parking lot and go about his night. But here we are, seeing a grandfather getting violently assaulted by a law enforcement officer. It gets immediately worse from here, and we have no choice but to blur out some portions of the scuffle as it gets too violent and bloody.
You understand. I want him code 6. You're under arrest. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
You fucker!
Get on the ground.
Okay,
Give me your hands.
Oh,
Give me your hands.
okay.
Give me your hands.
Okay.
Give me your hands.
Why are you doing this, man? What the f***? Look at the fucker what he did. I didn't do anything.
Pull him this way. I'm pulling him this way. On your stomach.
Okay.
You're on your stomach.
Okay. I will, I promise.
Get out.
Okay. Ouch. Oh, guys, please.
What part of that did you not understand?
I didn't do anything. You hit me so many times. Why did you hit me?
Because you weren't listening.
What just happened was that Mr. Hinton, who had essentially done nothing wrong at all, rightfully remained seated in his vehicle when Deputy Clay decided to abuse his power and authority by grabbing Mr. Hinton by the leg and forcefully pulling him out. We'd like to highlight once again that Mr. Hinton is 62 years old, making him that much more prone to injuries. But Deputy Clay couldn't care less about that. Mr. Hinton was situated on the ground with his head down, not resisting at all. Deputy Clay proceeded to punch him in the face numerous times. And to make things far worse and unbelievable, Deputy Clay even kicked Mr. Hinton in the body several times. Now to dissect this clearly unlawful and illegal use of force, let's start off by discussing when exactly an officer is rightfully allowed to pull someone out of their vehicle. In general, an officer may request you to step out of your car for safety reasons, or if they have reasonable grounds to believe you pose a threat or are involved in criminal activity. In 1977, the Supreme Court case Pennsylvania v. Mims established that police officers have the legal right to ask you to step out of your vehicle during a traffic stop. The court justified this rule with officer safety concerns, stating that the benefit to officer safety in this context outweighs the minimal additional intrusion on the motorist. In Mr. Hinton's case, though, it's bizarre to think that he was a threat to the officer's personal safety, and we've already discussed how he did not really commit a crime. Next, we need to address the unjustifiable use of force against Mr. Hinton. In Washington, police officers may only use reasonable force to arrest someone. According to Washington law RCW section 9A.16.020, the use, attempt, or offer to use force upon or toward the person of another is not unlawful whenever necessarily used by a public officer in the performance of a legal duty. However, bear in mind that the force used must be reasonable and proportional to the situation. As we saw in the video, Mr. Hinton was not resisting arrest or posing any threat to the officer. He was an elderly man parked legally in a lot and simply refused to provide identification when he was not obligated to. Deputy Clay's use of force was clearly excessive and unreasonable in this situation. It's very similar to the 1989 case of Graham v. Connor, where the Supreme Court ruled that claims of excessive force during an arrest, investigatory stop, or other seizure should be analyzed under the Fourth Amendment's objective reasonableness standard. The court stated that the reasonableness of an officer's use of force depends on factors like the severity of the suspected crime, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat, and whether the suspect is resisting arrest. It rejected tests that focused on an officer's underlying intent or motivation. So under the objective Fourth Amendment analysis set forth in Graham v. Connor, Deputy Clay's actions were clearly excessive and unreasonable in violation of Mr. Hinton's constitutional rights. Lastly, when Mr. Hinton asked Deputy Clay why he was being beaten like that, Deputy Clay simply replied that it was because he wasn't listening. It became obvious that the reason Deputy Clay used such violence was only because Mr. Hinton refused to give his name, which is outrageous.
Now you want to tell me your name?
Oh, my name is Kevin. Oh, please. What is it to me? Why? What? I didn't do anything. Oh, please. I can't breathe.
Well, we got medics coming for you.
I can't breathe. Can you please let me out? I can't.
Let me double lock these.
Stop.
Can I sit up?
Let's search him real quick.
Can I sit up? Sir.
What's that?
Yeah, sit on your butt.
Beat me like that. I didn't do it. Anything.
What's your name, dude?
Oh, my name's Kevin. Kevin. Did this really just happen?
I told you you're under arrest.
Deputy Clay just implied that he had already made it clear that Mr. Hinton was under arrest before the scuffle. However, this was a total lie and a pathetic attempt to try and justify his use of force. If we look back at the initial point of contact with Mr. Hinton, we will realize that he was never told that he was being placed under arrest. Instead, Deputy Clay stated that he was not free to leave, implying detainment. He also added that Mr. Hinton was being rude, and that's why he was being treated this way. Let's recap.
All right, you got your ID on you real quick.
No, I don't.
No, you're not shutting the door. You're not free to leave.
Yeah, I am.
You're not.
Why are you acting like that?
Because
I
you're
just
kind of
said
being rude. And
I'm being rude?
yes.
Anyway, several more units had responded to the scene by the time Mr. Hinton was on the ground and bleeding.
I didn't do anything, sir.
7 other sergeant job. Got him? He hasn't been searched yet. What's that? I don't know. Make sure and take a picture of that sign right there.
This is where the Spokane County Sheriff's Office loses its credibility. We've just seen Deputy Clay gesture to ask his fellow officers to mute their body cams, and every officer on the scene proceeds to do so. On top of this, the officer that Deputy Clay just spoke to was actually smiling about the situation. And this becomes prevalent in other officers too. None of the officers on the scene were taking Mr. Hinton's situation seriously, and they had no idea how much damage was done to him. Note that the department's policy manual states that body cameras are a valuable tool for promoting transparency in law enforcement by recording citizen contacts with police officers. The Spokane Police Department uses body cameras to contemporaneously and objectively document citizen contacts. Clearly, in Mr. Hinton's case, deactivating the audio hampers the documentation of the encounter and absolutely discredits any form of transparency within the department. The policy manual also gives an outline of 3 circumstances where an officer can choose not to record through a body cam. First, when unsafe or impractical. Second, sensitive communications. And third, when a citizen objects to being recorded. None of these apply in this encounter, and the officer's actions may demonstrate a culture of impunity within the department that enables excessive force. We can relate this to a case from January 2022 when officers shot 20-year-old Dante Wright and then muted their body cams while speaking to each other. In fact, a sergeant at the scene, who witnessed the shooting, allowed an officer to mute her body camera during a conversation, right after he took one of the officer's gun into evidence. The footage has reignited the debate over policies that allow officers to choose the interactions they record with their body-worn cameras. Police chiefs say such discretion is necessary because there are times on duty when officers can and should be allowed to have private conversations. Following this, Deputy Clay violated Mr. Hinton's Fourth Amendment right once again by searching through his vehicle without a search warrant or probable cause. What's worse is that it was later found that Deputy Clay had mentioned in his police report that he could smell an odor of marijuana coming from Mr. Hinton's vehicle. But it comes as no surprise that absolutely no trace of marijuana was documented, essentially exposing Deputy Clay's tyranny since he might have used that as an excuse to search the vehicle in the first place. Note that the body cam remains muted even still. Following this, Mr. Hinton was put in the back of a patrol vehicle and transported to jail, where the jailers refused to book him because his injuries were too bad, so he was taken to the hospital accordingly. It was reported that this violent encounter resulted in the 62-year-old driver sustaining 8 broken ribs, including some that had multiple breaks, and others that were dislocated from the sternum, a punctured lung, and memory loss that could be a result of possible traumatic brain injury. A note also added that Hinton's lip is permanently disfigured. His lawyer stated that even if Mr. Hinton was in the park, the violation at best would be a civil infraction. Sources claim that Mr. Hinton clearly has PTSD. He can't talk about the incident without becoming emotional. He hasn't returned to his home for fear of retaliation. He's traumatized. He is absolutely traumatized. As of the date of this recording, Mr. Hinton is still receiving medical treatment and will also need dental work to replace teeth that had been knocked out, estimating that the total medical bill cost will be at least $100,000. He is bringing an excessive forces lawsuit against the officer soon. Meanwhile, Deputy Clay was placed on administrative leave on October 6, 2023, 2 months after the encounter. Be sure to check out our previous video, where we cover another outrageous police encounter.